Oh boy, that doesn't look good. So this weekend we headed down to the Podium Club, which is about an hour south of Phoenix, outside of the town of Casa Grande. And so it was an early day, leaving the house at about 5 a.m., even though our first session wasn't until 8:40. Had to leave at 5 a.m., drive about an hour south, then we had to top off the car. Took about 100 miles of range to get down there. So we stopped at a supercharger, then headed over to the club. This is always a very busy event with people coming in from multiple states. Fortunately, we got here early and were able to find a decent parking spot. On the way in, saw another Tesla, which was nice to see. Someone brought their Plaid from California. So we grabbed our spot, unloaded the car, and then walked around a bit just to check out everything else that was going on. So let's do a tour of the Podium Club track before we jump into some of the lap footage. And so if we start on this really long main straight, and we're going to use Google Maps here to help us and see how well it measures. This looks like about 2,726 feet long. So what is that? That's probably over half a mile if I'm just roughing it. So very, very long straight. And just for reference, in my experience, again, in the Model 3, I am hitting probably about 130 plus coming into the end of the straight, which is actually a downhill curve, and we'll get to that. There was someone there this weekend, Tesla Plaid, and he said he was topping 160 at the end of the straight and having trouble stopping it, even with upgraded brakes. So for this session, we were running clockwise, and so you come down the main straight, as I mentioned, very long straight. About this point, you actually come up a hill here, and then this is a downhill section into the first turn. So you're braking pretty hard coming into the downhill. This is not a terribly tight turn. So you come around here and then you can quickly accelerate through this section. Here you're starting to come back uphill. And so into a tight turn complex, which is again uphill. And when I say uphill, I mean this is the Arizona desert. So these are not terribly steep hills, but much more elevation than you would normally get. So come into this uphill section. Again, turn here, come around this curve as you're accelerating, turn here. Now this section is interesting because the track kind of comes back inward, but you don't really have to slow down for this at all. And then right here, you're gonna descend into this corner. So this is a descending braking area into this turn. Again, pretty quick corner. And then onto this back straight, which is pretty long. And by the way, what I'm gonna do is I have some lapping data from Track Addict, which I'll pop onto the screen here. So you come down this straightaway. Again, in the Model 3, you're probably 114, 115 heading into this corner. Gonna slow down for this long right-hander. Again, this is a flat straight into a flat corner, which then begins an elevation gain up into this segment of S's here. And these get really interesting. So you come up, you're heading uphill into this area. This set of S's definitely caused a bunch of problems for people because they get tighter as you go. They are downhill, and it caused people to go offline, go off the track, spin a few times as the cars got unbalanced. So you come into this S's section, and you're really just trying to balance the car through here. And at this point here, actually, because it stretches out a bit, you can accelerate back up and then slow down again for this last set of S's, and then you have a sprint down to the hairpin around here. And so that is one lap of the clockwise Podium Club in this configuration. So let's take a look at some lap footage. But before we do that, I am going to ask for the old like, subscribe, and comment. It would be super helpful to understand what you'd like to see on the channel, what's working and what isn't. As you may have seen, we're trying a new format with this video, so let us know what would be most helpful to you. Overall, the day went really well. Given the smooth surface of the track, we ran a stiffer suspension setup with the dampers set at 4 compression and 2 rebound on the front, and 3 compression and 2 rebound on the rear. Had no problems with suspension noise as I had previously. The car handled well. The only issue today was really traffic. As I mentioned before, this is a very popular event, and I signed up for a group that requires point buys for passing. And the reason for that was I still wasn't sure if the car would have any issues or odd sounds, and I just wanted to be in a safer group where I wouldn't have to worry about open passing. And the good news is everyone was super well behaved. Point buys were used extensively, and I didn't witness any, say, crazy passing. It was all very reasonable. Now, unfortunately, being in this group also meant there was a fair amount of traffic, and many laps you were navigating that traffic, either waiting for the point buy, waiting for groups of cars to sort them out. And on more than one occasion, I actually went down pit lane just to take a slower lap and get away from the traffic. So all in all, the car handled well, but there really weren't many entire laps I could string together where I was pushing the car, so I didn't get a feel for what a good lap time is. It was more like in a corner here or there is when I could really push it and understand what the limits are and get to know the track a bit. But had a great time, and it was really fun to kind of experience a newer track surface which felt very different. So with that, what I'm going to do is leave a couple clips here at the end, which were, I would say, interesting events I saw over the course of my laps. These were either cars that went off track, I'll look at kind of the long straightaway, but general a couple of highlights. And what I'll do is I'll make a separate video with the full footage in case you want to watch the entire session and see all the laps in detail.